In this chapter, we're going to make some summary data, and we're going to get that data by using a combination of vlookups, hlookups, index, and match functions. These are all very powerful data query functions. And so let's type in here summary data. And as before, we're going to copy and then paste the formatting. And paste special as formats. So now here we're going to make a few tables of summary data. So let's say, first of all, I just want to make a basic query about the income statement. Let's say that I want to know what EBITDA was in 2016. I'm going to type EBITDA there, and next to it I'm going to type 2016. Just so I know the two items that I'm looking up. And if I scroll up to the table here, so I've got this table with the vertical axis being the line items and the horizontal axis being the years. So I want Excel to return the value for me of EBITDA in 2016, which is cell F8. But I want to make it a bit dynamic. Instead of just directly linking up here to this cell, which I could do, I'm going to use the vlookup function. And what vlookup does is I tell Excel to look up a value, in this case EBITDA. I tell it to look in an area that I select, and it's going to look on the leftmost column vertically. The V stands for vertical for that word, and then it's going to output a result based on the number of columns that I tell it to move over. So in this case, it needs to move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns to return 2016. So I'm going to say vlookup this text here in this area, and then return the number located in column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to press false because I want an exact match, not an approximate match. And when I do that, I get 79825, and that's correct. That's the right number. So I see that this is working properly. The only problem with this is that, well, for one thing, this 6 is hard-coded into the formula, so it's not dynamic. And secondly, I had to actually manually count how many columns I wanted it to move over. So that's a bit problematic. One thing I could do to make it a bit more dynamic is I could change this to just be a 6, and I could also then change the formula, and I'm gonna press F2 to go in and edit it, and then replace that number there with this cell here, and press enter. So I get the same number. Now, if I change this again to a 7, I get 2017. If I change it to an 8, I get 2018, etc. So that's a bit better. That's definitely a bit more dynamic. But there are even better functions, which we will go through next. So now let's also look at what an hlookup does. An hlookup is like a vlookup, except instead of looking vertically and then returning a column, it looks horizontally and then returns a row. So it's kind of the inverse. So let's say now this time I want to look up 2016 as the initial lookup value, and I also want to know what EBITDA was. So let's try an hlookup here together. Hlookup. I want to look up this value here, and I want to look for it in this table. And then I want to return row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 was where EBITDA is. And then I want to put false here to have an exact match. Press enter, and I get the same number. So I'm going to now paste here. Paste special, so I've got the right formatting. So now we can see here that there's two different ways to come at this. One is with a vlookup, where I'm looking vertically and outputting a column. The other way is with an hlookup, where I look horizontally for the year and then output a row. But I can take this analysis one step further. I can make it much more dynamic by using index and match functions and combining them. And what that will do will allow me to, first of all, I don't have to look left to right the way a vlookup can only look in the first column and move over. I can look in any direction in this table and I can have it be totally dynamic. So let's review how to do that together. The first thing we're going to do is learn how to use the index function. The index function allows us to select an array. So in this case, it's our entire table here. And it's going to output a cell based on the row we tell it to look in, which in this case, EBITDA is row 8. And then the column that we tell it to look in this case, 2016, was column 6. So I can close that, and I get the same number that I had in the previous two examples. But this is a very manual formula because, again, I had to count which row it was, and I had to count which column it was, and these are hard-coded in there. So this is not a very dynamic formula. But I can combine it with the match function. And if I'm just going to experiment with that here, the match function, what match does is, for example, if I want to match EBITDA in this part of the table right here, and then I'm going to select 0 for an exact match, it actually tells me that EBITDA is in the 8th row. And I can also use match to figure out if I want, because we want 2016 here, to figure out, and we scroll up here, select all of this, and request an exact match by entering 0, that 2016 is in the 6th column. So I think you can probably guess pretty quickly how I'm going to combine index and the match functions to make this totally dynamic. So let's build an example here together, and I'm going to paste here I'm going to paste special, the formatting. I'm going to delete these. I'm actually going to delete this, and I'm going to put right here, I'm going to put two items that I can select. So the first is going to be EBITDA, and the second is going to be 2016. And here, let's type this together. I'm going to type index, and I'm going to go up to the top of the sheet, and holding down the shift key, I'm going to select the entire area. I'm going to press F4 to lock this into place in case I want to copy it over later. And then now I need to tell it what row to look in. So to tell it what row, instead of typing 8, I'm going to type match. And the lookup that I want to find is EBITDA. So I'm gonna take EBITDA, and I want it to look on this first column of the table. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna press F4 to lock that in place in case I copy this, and then I'm gonna add a 0 for an exact match. Now I need to tell it what column to pull from, so I'm gonna type match again, and I'm gonna look for 2016 in this top row of the table. I'm going to press F4 to lock that in place, and then 0 to produce an exact match. And I can close the brackets, and if all went correctly, which I think it did, it's giving me this EBITDA number here, which is EBITDA in 2016. and it's dynamic based on these two inputs. So if I type in here 2017, it's updating automatically, 2018, etc. And let's say instead of EBITDA, I want net income. Type that in, now I'm getting net income. Let's say I want revenue. I'm getting revenue. Change the year. So this is very, very, very dynamic. This is a very powerful tool. And what we can do now is actually using data validation, we can actually take it one step further. And let's go into data validation, Alt A, V for data validation, and I'm going to select a list. And then the source, I'm going to go up, scroll up here and select all of these income statement items. And then just press OK. So now, actually right here, now I have all these options that I can choose from. Gross profit, revenue, COGS, etc. And then here, let's use data validation again. Alt A, V, V. I want to do a list. I want to select the source as being these years. And I'm going to press OK, and then here I've got all these years to choose from. So wow, this is a pretty powerful tool, and you can now have this very dynamic little query system here where we're looking up these values and we're getting the output right here. So this is a very powerful tool. Let's just do a little bit of formatting cleanup here. First of all, let's press Alt H and then I for insert and R for row. I'm going to say here vlookup example, and then down here I'm going to also insert a row, Alt H I R H lookup example, hold, and then here Alt H I R. I'm going to call this a dynamic query, and pressing Alt H I R one more time. What I'm going to do is just clean this up a little bit. So here I'm going to take these and press Control X to cut and Control V to paste. And I'm going to put here select. I'm going to put an arrow like that. And then I'm going to take EBITDA. I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to put it right here. And then I'm going to type select again. I'm going to cut this, put it here. I'm going to select those two cells and press Control 1. Let's select one of these little nifty borders here and add it to the outline of these cells, so I see that these are something I can choose. So I can choose revenue here in 2016, and then I'm going to type output like that, make it bold, and put this here. So now we've got a nice little dynamic table set up here. You may even want to make this another color if you really want to highlight it. Maybe I'll make it a light gray. So now we've got this dynamic query set up here. This is quite a nice little tool. And let's also make below this a dynamic query table. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this index match function and just take it one step further to make a table. Let's say that I want a summary table of just a few things. I would just want to know revenue, EBITDA, and net income. Those are the only things I want to know, and I'm going to insert a row here. And I want to know what they were in, let's say here, I want to know what they were in 2016, 2017, and 2018. What I'm going to do now is we're going to redo this index match function. So I'm going to type index, and I'm going to press Control Home to go to the top. I'm going to select this entire area, which I'm going to lock in place with F4. And then I'm going to match. The first thing I want to match is revenue. And so and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use F4 to lock the column. I want to freeze this on column A, but allow it to be copied down so I can fill in the table. And I'm going to look for that within this entire section here, which I will anchor with F4, comma 0 for an exact match. And then I'm going to match across the top the year. Now this one I'm going to lock the row, not the column, because I want to be able to copy it down, but I want it to move across when I copy it right. And if I press Control Home, I get up to the top where I select this entire row, which I lock with F4, comma 0 for an exact match, close bracket, and press Enter. So revenue in 2016, let's use this little test here because we know this one is working to make sure that yes, that is the correct number. That's great, revenue in 2016. I'm going to copy and paste special here. I'm going to copy and paste special here, the formatting. And if all went correctly, I should be able to press Control D to fill it down, and then Control R to fill it right. And let's just spot check these. 2018 net income. So this is hooked up correctly now, and this is a very interesting and powerful way to make a data table where I could change any of these inputs here or here to get these desired outputs. So what I'm going to do is change these font colors to be blue because these are hard codes in a table, and same with these because these are also hard codes in a table. And what I'm going to do is also add a border here across the top, and then I'm going to add a border here across the right. So I'm going to press R. So I've got this little table where I've got the years across the top and these items across the side, and this is completely dynamic. So if I ever decide that I do want to change it, let's just say now I want to pull SG&A, all of a sudden that changes to SG&A. Let's say I now actually want this last year to be 2020. It's automatically pulling 2020. So this is another version of what we've got here. And they're just two different tools that could be very useful for you in terms of presenting your outputs. So with this formatted here, let's just make sure everything is properly formatted using the style we like. So these are hard codes. These are all formulas. These are hard codes. This is a formula, and a formula, a formula, and these are hard codes. So I'm going to make these blue. Same with these here. And so we know that these functions here are dependent on these inputs. Now let's just group this the way we have with all of our other sections by holding Shift and the down arrow, then Shift space bar, Alt, A for data, ZO for outline, G for group twice. And now we can minimize the income statement and minimize our summary data. And there we have it.